Alright, what's up everybody? We're back here on the Making Logging Map tutorial series, and we're just about to wrap it up. This is in fact the next to last video. This one we're going to talk about the Farmlands, .xml and all the other files that are necessary and stuff you have to do to make the viable tracts of timber or farmland or whatever you want to do. Okay, so we're here on our little sample map, this little test map here. And somebody was asking if this was going to be in the game at some point. No, this is just for showing off how to do these things. So we're going to come over here on this side actually where there's nothing, it's just blank over here. And so we're going to start working on the farmlands, but before we do that you have to make sure that you have some proper files and stuff. So the first thing you want to do is open up your map that you're working on and go to, usually it's in the maps folder. So you can see here we're under our blank map by blur modding, and then there's the default vehicles, the map preview, stuff like that. But if you click on this maps folder, usually right here under that you'll see something. It's either map US, map DE, or just map _ farmlands.xml. So you have to make sure that's there. If it's not, you have to go to probably one of the stock maps and just copy paste it from there. And then the other thing you need to make sure that it's there is under this maps folder. There's this map. In this particular case it's map DE because they pulled the not the Ravenport but the Felsbrunn map from the stock game and just made this blank map. But anyway, under this map DE folder, what you're going to look for is mapde _ farmland.grle. And again, it's probably going to be called something different depending on how the person who made the blank map, named their files and stuff. But you want to look for this _ farmland.grle. And if that's not there, again, you'll have to go to the one of the stock maps and copy paste it. Now that's not going to work if you're working on a 4x map, because you have to make sure that it's all the proper sizes and stuff, which I think you can convert this to a PNG and resize it and then converts it back to a .grle or something. I don't know, but you have to look all that up. I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial, but you just have to make sure that this whatever blank map you're working on has the proper files, because if you don't, then whenever you click on this terrain info paint mode button and then you go down to, it's gonna be right down here, let's see, the info layer painting option right there, info layer painting. And see, right now it's on the tip collision, which means I'm thinking that anything painted in white will not accept anything to be dumped there, like wood chips or something. But we're going to switch over here to farmland. And so that's what I was talking about. If all the files are not there, then this farmland is probably not even going to be visible to you. Alright, and you can see here that they've got, and again, this is the Felsbrunn map, so they've already got a lot of stuff painted in here. And I'm not going to just do this whole map. I'm just going to kind of show you how to do this. And first of all, I'm going to show you what not to do. Okay, so back up here at our, this little wheel circle thing, where you can paint. You see, if I start painting, then it's painting in the info layer number 1, which would be farmland number 1. But if you come down here to, okay, so I've already got it set. The right mouse button is subtract. Let me show you what that does. So it just completely wipes it out, and you have basically a null value there, no value at all. That is not what you want to do. I have discovered that the hard way, because I thought at first, I'll just wipe it all out and start painting my 1s and my 2s all the way up to however many fields I want. But here's the issue. If you accidentally leave an empty cell, even one little pixel in there, it's not going to work. So what I recommend doing, instead of painting all that with an empty thing, just come down here to whatever farmland you want to start with, whether it be 1 or if you want to start at Well, this one goes up to 63. I think you can add more, but I'm not going to cover that. Well, actually, there's 64 because 0, this is 0. But let's just say you want to start at 1, and you wanted, and again, too, you can switch from round to square, and sometimes a square does help if you want to make them, perfectly square areas or rectangular or whatever. So, I mean, let's just say we wanted to start doing it this way, something like that. That's how I would do it. I would not erase it and then try to start painting. I would just leave whatever's there and start painting in, your the rest of your fields. And let's just say, for example, of course, of our sawmill is back over that way, but let's say we had our sawmill right here, and you knew that you wanted that to be owned by default. All right, so what I normally do is, if I know that I want to start with my default area, say a sawmill or something like that, and sometimes even the roads too. You'll see on some of my maps where if you just start off the map and you click on, if you hit escape and you go to the map and you hit X to bring up the land, you'll see sometimes when you click on my sawmill area, not only is the sawmill area itself, but you'll see, some of the roads and maybe some other little things around the map just that are owned by default. There's no sense in, having to buy the roads, so I usually just have those as default. So with that being said, if you knew that, say, you wanted number 1 to kind of be your base layer, I would just paint the whole thing, the whole map, entire map, with a number 1. Then you come back later, and let's say we wanted number 2 over here. Okay, so you want to make sure that, first of all, I have not found there to be good luck with picking this from this drop down. Let's say if I want number 10, I will provide a link in the video description of what all these check boxes do for you. So let's say we wanted to start with number 1, so I'm going to click 0, and again, you can have the round or square brush. This is, of course, the square, and we'll just start painting in our number 1 field. I'm not going to be super careful with it and just paint it all in like this. Alright, so there's field number 1. We'll call that field number 1. And so first of all, let me show you what happens whenever you use this drop down. Okay, so we just painted in field number 1. I'm going to go for field number 2. Alright, so I'm painting, and you see the colors are the same. At least it looks the same to me from where I'm at. And say I wanted all that to be field number 2. So I paint all that in. Alright, so how do you differentiate between field number 1 and field number 2? So that's why you don't use this drop down. I have not found that to work. Okay, so let's back all that out. Alright, so we're back to square one. Alright, so let's go back and let's paint in field number 1 again. Alright, so we're just going to paint something like that. Make sure you fill it all in, because if you leave a little, even one little pixel, it'll show up on the map and it won't look very good. Alright, so let's go field number 2, and I think that is just number 1. Yeah. So just number 1 checkbox. But again, I'll have the little link to where you can find what all these checkboxes, combinations of checkboxes do. Because see, if you click just 1, that's 2. If you click 0 and 1, that's 3. So it's kind of a binary system, and you can see it just changed there. So that's why you don't use the drop down. All right, so now we can start painting in field number 2, and we can see where we're at because it's a different color. Alright, so there's field number 2, and then we'll go to field 3, and you can see again it's just going to keep changing colors. And so you just do this until you got your fields defined like you want them, just making sure that you don't overlap anything or actually leave gaps or something's the main thing. And again, what I recommend is to start off, I would paint this whole map with number 1. I would just cover the whole thing and don't leave a single pixel uncovered. and you can switch between 1 and 2 or something and kind of scan around the map and make sure that you didn't miss anything. But that's what I would do. Then start using, you know, these different check boxes to find field number 4, which, yeah, I think that's 0 and 3. Nope, that's, well, anyway, it's, you gotta figure out what which ones these are. Maybe it's 1 and 2. No, it's, oh, maybe it's 0, 1. No, well, whatever 4 is, I'll have the link down there in the description. All right, and so that's basically it. Once you finish painting in all of however you want it, and again, this is going to be a little bit complicated because, you know, of course, we don't have anything really in this area. But let's pan back over to our little sawmill area. So I mean, you can see the trees. You can see where I've got the bushes along the road right there. So I mean, you just kind of have to use that to define, you know, your areas. It's actually a little tough to draw in these boundaries because you can't see anything. I mean, I can kind of barely see the if I uncheck that, you can kind of barely see the concrete versus the grass. If I turn that Farmlands back on, you see it right there. I don't know if it's I can barely see it, but it is tough to define your boundaries. So you may have to come up with some kind of a method to, you know, figure out where exactly you are and how you want your fields laid out, and or farms or tracts of timber, or however you want it laid out. But with trees and stuff, it'll be a little bit easier. All right, so once you've got everything painted in and you make sure you haven't missed anything, left any gaps or whatever, and you're good to go, the next thing we need to do is come back down here to our XML, this farmlands.xml, and we'll right click on that and go edit. You can edit in Notepad, or I like to use Notepad++. This one's a pretty simple one, so Notepad works just fine. But so at the very top here, you'll see a link to where this underscore farmland.grle file is. You have to make sure that that's in the right place, otherwise it won't know how to reference the grle file. All right, and then the next thing you need to worry about is this right here. This is the price per hectare, and this is default right here. 60,000 is default. You can bump that down to whatever you want to. I mean, 10,000, 30,000, 40,000, whatever. And it makes the buying the lands a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier at first when you don't have a whole lot. Okay, so this next line right here references what farmland it is. So you remember in the first part of that, we painted on number 1, and that was field ID number 1, and I recommended painting in the whole map and then going back over it with the other fields and filling it all in. But anyway, this is these files here reference what field it is. So let's say we only did 25 farmlands. So everything from 26 down, we could delete all that stuff. Just make sure that when you get down here, don't delete that right there. That's the closing tag, has to be there. Okay, so this price scale equals 1 means that if it was 1 hectare, then it would be $60,000. And this price scale right here is 60,000 times 0.6, whatever that is. It'd be what about 3,600 less or something? I don't know. And you can see here that Giants made a little note that this is a very big but pretty useless terrain, so they bumped the price down. See, it's not a full 1 like this one. These are it's a 0.6 and a 0.5 for this one, because same thing here. Pretty big farmland but useless terrain, because maybe a lot of rocks or pond or something there. Okay, and then now like I was saying, normally what I do is I have field number 1 be my default property, and then I might have 1 or 2 other tracts of timber when I'm making my logging maps that they're also owned by default, just so you have something to cut when you first start off the map. It'd be kind of a grind, I think, to not start off with any tracks and have to buy a big $1 million track of timber or something. So the way you make the field number 1 default is you notice right here on farmland ID 30 and 31, those are owned by default whenever you start the map. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to cut it by using Control X on my keyboard. And then I'm going to come up here to farmland number 1 and Control V to paste it. And so now when I hit save on this XML file, farmland number 1 is owned by default when you start the map, and farmland number 31 is also owned by default. And they don't have anything else in here. Now I have no idea what this NPC_DE01 is, because it's duplicated in some places, and you see here there's 2 10s and there's 3 12s, you know, so I have no idea what this is. So I don't even worry about that. But the main thing you got to worry about is you know, this price scale. If you want a certain track to be a little less than others because of let's see, right here, here's 3 in a row where it's a town, and so this is part of town. So I mean, you know, there's really no reason to have that at any kind of major cost, because there's really nothing to do there, I would guess. So they bumped the price down to 0.3. And here's one that's they bumped it up to a 4. See, this is a mountain, a small field, and a castle. So I guess if you want to own that, you better have some money. But anyway, just worry about the default property, which farmlands you want to be owned by default, and then the price scale. And then if you want to, you can adjust the price per hectare right there. But that's pretty much all it is. And then once you get finished editing there, make sure you just go up here to File and Save, and then there you go. Whenever your players start the map, they will own the fields that you set as default at the certain price scale and a certain price per hectare. And that is all it is. That's pretty easy right there. Okay, now some other things here that we're probably going to go over in the next video, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it, is this PDA map right here. This is whenever you're in game and you hit well, let's say it's 9 on the keyboard. I'm not sure what, I can't remember what it was on the Xbox controller. I think it's what, left bumper and left stick down or something like that. But anyway, it brings up your little mini map, you know, while you're in the game. I'm going to recommend, I'll have the link to in the video description below, but Mirathus Catalyst, his YouTube channel, he made an excellent tutorial on this. And you don't have to have Photoshop, but you know, Photoshop's what I use, and you can use paint.net, which is free, and also I think GIMP is free, but I'm not very familiar with that software. But there's some free you know, photo editing or drawing type programs out there that'll do all this. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not too much to do with Farmlands. It's pretty simple. You just have to make sure that you do not right click and create a black area like this, because like I said, if you're painting this in and you happen to, let's say you see that little top right of my thing up there, let's say we left that little spot right there, let's say that was our track right there, but we left this right here, this little even if it's 1 pixel, it's gonna screw you up. See, that's just 1 pixel right there. I left that 1 pixel, and let's say it was over on the very edge of the map or something, or you see how these well, this is kind of brown and kind of a burnt red or whatever, but let's say you had you know, some colors that were kind of dark. Sometimes those things are hard to see if you leave an empty pixel in there. So I mean, even if you just leave 1, it's going to screw it up big time. So make sure you don't do that. Make sure you paint it, cover the whole entire map with some sort of a field ID color, whatever. But anyway, that's it. Hope you learned something, and thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time on the very last one, where we're going to talk about making the preview image, and then you know, exporting the entire map and getting it packaged up with the proper files and stuff for release. So we'll talk about that next time. Anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you later.